end, you are either talking about a person who does the front end, and this person focuses on the visual parts of the website or an application. And they also deal with the interactive aspects of that particular application or the website. Okay, and it involves using various languages. Like as you can see here, I've put HTML, and this stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And this is what is commonly used in building websites. For instance, I'll just show you something over here. I forgot to. Anyway, I'll just show you something here just to display what hypertext is, what HTML is. So HTML forms the bare knuckle or the structure of websites. Okay, so any website or any web page or any website that you see online has HTML as the markup language. It's called the markup language because it forms the structure or that is used to build our website. I'll share here just a bit. So, for instance, you can see on my screen, this is a doc type or HTML file, and this is how it looks like. And of course, we will teach you how to go about this, so don't worry even if you don't understand. I know some of us understand all this, but to some of us it's jargon. So don't worry even if you don't understand anything. So this is just HTML document, and this, whatever you see here, these are declarations. We call them declarations, and they're normally used to you are like declaring that the file is HTML, is a markup language. And HTML has things like tags, though that's not part of the lesson today. But because I've touched on HTML, so I'll just touch on that. So this is called a tag. So this is a title tag. So you can, for instance, just insert something over here. Like you can just say that cohort 2025. Okay, and in this lesson it will be interactive. That means I will be interacting with you a lot. So we are just starting. So this is a HTML like I've just shown you. So yeah, to let you know that that's how HTML looks like. And it has, of course, it has the head. For instance, the head of what you are doing. If it's a website, then this becomes the head. For instance, if it's a personal profile, and maybe you can say Benjamin's profile, and so forth and so on. And then you can write something near here. You can maybe put a p tag, a tag like this. So this is just a tag. So you can just say that's about me, something like that. Okay. And this is just in a bit to show you what this means. So let's go back to our notes. So like I've said, okay, Rosoy, please switch off your camera. Brandon, okay, Rosoy, please switch off your camera. Okay, good. So now let's go back. Okay, fine. Now, so we are here. Yeah, so we talk about the hypertext markup language that's for building the structure of or a content of the web page. And then we have what's called the cascading style sheets or the CSS. And this is normally used for styling the content of a page. It's like building a house, and then after putting the foundation and putting the structures, then you have to like do the decor and stuff like that, put the ceiling, ensure that you've painted the house, and so forth and so on. So it's a tool or a style that is meant, we can't call it a language, but sometimes people call it a language, but it's not really, we can't reward it with all the the necessities of a programming language. So we can call it just a tool that we need to ensure that when we are styling a page, we use those tools. Yeah. And we have JavaScript, which is a fully fledged programming language that is normally used to do a lot of things on the website. For instance, like you want to make some animations, you want to do some authentications, use JavaScript. And not only that, it's also used for server, in other, we can also use it for server side. If we want to use it for server side, because we can use things like Next.js and Node.js. With the coming of Node.js and Next.js and Express.js, we can use JavaScript. And also what makes it versatile is because of the various libraries that it comes with. It comes with a lot of libraries, and some libraries are built off JavaScript, such as Angular, Vue, React, built off JavaScript. And so that's why it's necessary for us to learn JavaScript. So I want you to pick up a few things from here, that when we're talking about building a web or an application in this context, we are talking about the front end part of the web page. We are talking about the back end part of the web page. And in the front end, we use tools such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so we'll explain this later on as we delve further into this course. Okay, and then now we have the back end. Now the back end is it deals with the server side of a website. It involves managing databases, server logic, and application programming interfaces, that's APIs, that ensures the website functions smoothly behind the scenes. So under the hood, there's something that powers what you see. You see, and this is it's called the back end. This is where we build the business logic. Okay. So for instance, when you are building a restaurant and you want this restaurant to have some database, you want it to hold the what we call it, you want it to hold the menu, and you want to be able to pick orders from people. You want to be able to pick orders. You want to have their data. You hold that data in the backend or in a database or in a schema. That's why we build the database models. And models are just the database schemas, or they are the tables. Let me just use like a lay language. They are the tables whereby, because you see, when you're building a dynamic website, not just, and there's a difference, I'll come to that. There's a difference between a web application and a website. There's a difference between that. We will come to that soon. So a dynamic web application or a web system has some kind of interactivity in the background taking place, and that means there's back and forth communication between the server and the front side, and that means you are pulling some information from the back end and then displaying it to whoever has requested for it. All right. API development also, backend also involves things like API developments. I was trying to explain to you, I touched on it yesterday, and I said that APIs are application programming interface, and these are just protocols or communication protocols between two applications. For instance, I gave a simple application, a simple example. For instance, you are building a weather application and you want people to see the data from whoever is gathering that data. Your work is to render that data, but you don't have it. So you're getting that data from another application. So you have to communicate to that application, request for that data to come to you so that it can be rendered to whoever you want it to be rendered to. And that is done by what's called an API. It's like a remote control, okay? I hope that makes sense. If you don't understand anything, please just ask. We will answer. So we have what's called full stack. Full stack basically just means a combination of the front end and the back end. And there are those people who normally specialize they can specialize in building the back end or the front end, or or they can do full stack. So they are called backend developers. Those people do backend, they are called backend developers. And those people do the front end, they're called front end developers. And like I've said, front end, they normally, they want to deal with styling, probably things like styling, coloring, which of course use those CSS, and structuring like those radio buttons and stuff like that, menus, interactions with JavaScript. And like I've explained, I have some rendition over here. So we have the tools we use for the front end are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. And here I've given an example of say, for instance, this is a login page, or call it a login application. And so in this login, you build the structure, and this first place is the structure which is built by HTML. Okay. We can do this very quickly, but I don't want to get into coding because we are not yet there. And this particular template or HTML, you can style it now. You see over here, it's not just like it's just there. Here we've made it, we've centralized things, and now things look a bit, they make sense. So you can see the newsletter sign up is up here, and then this one is properly placed over here, and then all this is there. The field is here. So this is done by using the CSS, and then this is done by using the HTML template. And for instance, now, if you want people to enter their emails, you want to start using JavaScript, okay? And for instance, here, if somebody enters their email, that email needs to be sent to someone, okay? And that kind of communication is also being done in the server side. So that sending of the email, ensuring that the email is sent to whoever needs to be sent to, is done using the JavaScript, okay? Yeah, so I've told you that JavaScript is a versatile tool. And what I mean by that is that it can do so many things. It can handle both the front end and at the same time, the back end, all right? Another thing that makes it, and also JavaScript is used in mobile development a lot. For instance, it can be used with libraries such as, is it libraries? I think libraries such as Codiva. What is it called? We can use it with Flutter to build mobile applications, or PWA, progressive web apps. And it has a labyrinth of libraries, like I've said, that can be used. Like, you can use Next.js, you can use Node.js, you can use Express.js, you can use React, Angular, there are so many. So yeah, that's why we prefer using JavaScript, okay? Now on the backend side, for you to be this is if you want just to focus on being a front-end developer, then you need to master these tools. Of course, there are others, but these are the core main tools for you to master, and that also will still place you at a better place, okay? So I know that we have a mixture of different, students with different, with different goals in this class. But like we explained yesterday, for those people who were not there yesterday, we explained that in this course, we are covering full stack web development. So probably you are coming from an area whereby you are looking for something different, maybe cybersecurity. But I did explain why we are not doing that yesterday. And I explained why we are delving into full stack development. Yeah, and it's very simple. It's because we want to focus on this for now. But I also said that even if you are you're interested in cloud computing, like Mrs. Sivelia, this will still help you a lot. You will still learn and get a lot of skills that will help you in your career. For instance, you would want probably to have your portfolio. You will build them with these tools that we are teaching you, okay? And for instance, for her case, like a good cloud engineer needs to know computer programming. Very, very, very key. If you are interested in network engineering, you need to know you can write those scripting. If you're writing a scripting against, you can even write your own antivirus, but you need a programming language to do that. If you're writing a script that ensures that you're fighting, maybe you are tightening, maybe you are protecting maybe an application against vulnerabilities, you use a program like Python. Okay, so it's good for you. Even if you're a network person, you need to learn programming. That will put you at a better place in your career. Okay, if you are interested in data analysis, I also said that data analysts need to know programming. Yeah, very, very key. Okay, so when we come to backend, the roles are diverse as well, and backend is normally a bit dirty in the sense that it needs you to learn a lot of, not like you need to be a very good software engineer. Okay, and need to master those software engineering principles, and so that's where many people don't like backend, but it's an equally rewarding role if you want to delve into that. So I'm not getting into the roles per se of a backend engineer, but I'm just in passing. So you can be a backend developer, or you can just focus on developing APIs and so forth and so on. So when we talk about the backend, we're talking about the web servers and the database. And of course, a web server is just a software that handles that the communication between the front end and the back end. And a database is just a storage. And not just a storage, but there are also database languages that we're not going to learn. For instance, things like SQLite or SQL, Postgres, MongoDB, MariaDB, what else? MySQL, and all that stuff. And when I'm talking about SQL, that's just a structured query language, and it's normally used to query the database. It's normally used to construct the database. But we're not going to delve into database languages because the framework, which is Django, which we will use, comes shipped with an SQLite database. So it makes things easy for us. We can be able to interact with the database, which we already given. But also we can be able to, if you want us to delve just a little bit, I'll introduce that when we start doing Django. Through the Django shell, we'll be able to build databases, interact with the database. We'll be able to use real SQL. We will do that in example, not really delve into it further, but just to show you that we can also manipulate databases, not only using Python, but also using SQL, okay? And so, yeah, so the database, when we talk about the backend, we talk about the architecture, and that is just the structure of the database. And why the database? For instance, the backend, let me just give you, this is a rendition of what happens in the backend. For instance, you are buying something using a credit card. So so this is a credit card, this is you, and this is the shopping cart, and this is the database. So you need to interact with that database. And for you to do that, it's done by the backend people or the backend languages. And so, yeah, I've told you about the backend languages. Yeah, so it entails all this, a backend language, at least, database and APIs and web servers. All right. So in this case, we are going to do full stack, like I've explained to you. A full stack developer, that's the person who we aim to, we want to groom you to be a full stack developer. And as I've explained, you are that person who can handle both the front end and the back end. Okay, it's a very gruesome and demanding involvement or engagement, and will require a lot of your determination and a lot of your time. But we'll start with the front end first. But later on, if you want to branch into something different, you can do that. But we aim to equip you. Is somebody speaking? Okay, somebody's mic is open. Please mute. All right. So you can later on, if you want, delve into something different. And a backend developer, normally they have a lot of roles as compared to a front-end developer. And they also do a lot of planning when they're working on a project, and they do a lot of planning. They come up with the architecture, and they come up with the design as well, and the development, the total development, they can deploy. And deploying basically just means productioning, like ensuring that your application is productionable. And what I mean by that is that it goes to the end user. All right. They also do maintenance, and this skill has some kind of high demand. It's highly demanded because it's not an easy task to be a backend developer, and it's well paying as well. All right. So I don't want to get into the stats of that, but just barely to let you know that it's I feel that if you want, you can delve into. Yes. So website versus web application. So websites are just informational. They are static. That means they don't have much of interactivity. And it's good for you to know that there's a difference between a website and a web application. And things like blogs, like blog is just like a journal that you want to keep about a certain topic. And so sometimes it doesn't have much in terms of interactivity or things going behind the scene, like back and forth, pulling and fetching data. It's we don't have API calls and Ajax requests and stuff like that. No, we don't have that, unless it's a very, very complex blog, and then it ceases to be a blog or a website, then it becomes an application. So applications are a bit highly interactive, such as Gmail, Google Docs, our chat management system that we built with the first team, our seed elements that also the first team has built, and TCG system that also the first team has built. Those are called applications. Because of what? Because they're dynamic. And dynamic means you can be able to, as users interact with that application, then there is some kind of this how do I call it? This you can like interact with the with the back end and pull out something, and it can, when you're interacting with that application, as changes are being made, they get reflected or rendered on real time. For instance, if it's an application that's doing ordering, then that application can be able to fetch data, maybe the name of whoever is ordering and whatever they have ordered, and the time that they've done that, and it can change. For instance, if another person just makes an order, then it changes dynamically. So that's what we mean by dynamic and task-oriented. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you. So just a simple rendition here of a website and a web application. This is more intense. This is not intense. All right, so I'll barely just scratch on this. DNS just means domain name system, and this is a naming convention that websites that is used by websites. So what happens when we're talking about DNS is that a domain name such as www.com is translated or converted into an IP address, because computers don't understand those human languages, so they understand numbers, and so they understand an IP address. So that's why we use the domain name system. And when we talk about HTTP and HTTPS, this is hypertext transfer protocol, and it's just a way of transferring data. And we have two. So HTTP without the S and the one with the S. So this is the one with the S is more secure, and it has encryption. That means it has SSL secure socket layer, which is just a way of protecting whatever you're doing online. URLs is a uniform resource locator, and I'll show you just shortly what that is. Before I go on, anything that you've not understood, if I'm going too fast, please let me know. Are we in the same page? Are we together, all of us? Any question? All right, I can see thumbs up. That means we are in agreement. Good stuff. Okay, so let's proceed on. So understanding the internet. So this is where it gets a bit tricky, but I'll be as simple as possible. I'll try to be as much simple as possible and not as detailed as we would want to be, because that would be beyond the scope of this lesson. So for the purposes of understanding, so for instance, when you're searching something like a restaurant, you get an instant response, okay? And yeah, so you type something on the, has somebody raised their hand? Let me check. Emma Otieno, cannot see my screen. Who else? Can you guys see my screen?
Sir.
They are seeing my screen. Emma, I think it's yours. Maybe your internet's buffering, so yours. And I have another gadget, so just to check that I'm also seeing the same thing. So that's, so I can see the screen from another gadget. So yeah, so it should be, it's your end, Emma. Yeah, Aswan says yes. Nicholas Maita says yes. Temesi, yes, I can see. Yeah, so it's internet problems. Emma's confirmed. Okay, please just sort it out and then come back.
She can probably log out, then log in again. It will show.
Yes, Emma, please, you can log in and then log out. It will show. All right, so let's continue. So another, Benjamin, keep, if you see somebody raising their hands, so let me know, because I'm not checking the chat box.
I think Hannah had a question, so maybe she can unmute.
Okay, Anna, please unmute. Unmute and speak up, please.
No, I'm following. Kindly continue.
Okay, all right, okay, fine. Yeah, so where we at? We are at here. So, okay, when you search for something like a restaurant, you get an instance response, right? And when you get a response, there is some sort of communication that happens between you, where you are sitting from, maybe your machine, and there's something happening behind the scenes. And so when you open an app, you get connected to the world. And when you get connected to the world, you get connected to a server. I'm trying to be as simple as possible. So for instance, this is you, and there's some sort of communication that takes place between here and here, and this is the server. So when you type domain name, that communication is taken to the server via what is called a protocol, and that process is called response, request response cycle. So you are sending a request to the server, and then the server will respond with a response. And that's why we talk about what's called MVC. We will not do much of it, but we will do that when we're doing Django. So when we talk about MVC, that's a model view controller. And what normally happens is that there is a model that you're talking to. You're talking to the database. So when you hear me talking about a model, you're talking to the database. And there is some kind of logic in between you and the database, or in between what you want to see and the database. And so that logic is what is, those are like, they're like certain classes, certain Python classes or functions, or a collection of a set of rules that you've defined, so that whatever you pull from the database, you request from the database, will be rendered the way you want. Okay? Yeah. So this is how the internet works. The internet is a connectivity of, computers, and these computers are connected via switches. Switches is what enables this connectivity to take place. And a network switch is called a network switch. So because of the interconnectedness or the complexity of how the network works, we use switches. And this is also a very, very deep topic. And the way they work is just that they allow the transfer of data or packets of data from one gadget to another, from one device to another. At the bare minimum level, switches sometimes are in, like for instance, in my house, I have switch, and that switch controls what comes to which gadget and what goes to which gadget. Sometimes in PO, I think it's POPs, point of presence. If, for instance, that's an ISP, an internet service provider, they also have a switch, and that switch also controls the kind of data that's being released to each gadget. And even at enterprise level, they also have switches. Okay, so let's not go beyond that. For now, just understand that the complexity that is between these computers, because it's millions and millions of computers talking and pulling out data and sending it to one another. And those computers where the data are kept are called they are called servers. We'll get into that shortly. So a switch can be connected into another switch and back and forth. So network switch is connected into another network switch and another network switch and another network switch, and it goes on and goes forth and goes forth. And then we have an interconnected network. And then this is what now we call what? We call the internet. Okay. So that's how we come to the World Wide Web, the internet. Okay. But there is a lot, trust me, there's a lot of technologies and a lot of things that happens behind the scenes. So this is a client server module. And what we mean by that is just wherever you hear me talking about a client, we are talking about your machine or where you're sitting at. So we are talking about your computer. So that's called a client. So the computer connects through the internet, through the server, our web server, and then connects to the internet to the server. This server is just a special kind of a computer that stores that kind of information somewhere, seated somewhere. All right. So because through that request response cycle, you are able to pull out that information, and then it gets rendered to you at the client level. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So that interactivity happens globally all over the world per second. It happens, for instance, if you're having a Zoom call, there's some data that is being transferred via undersea cables that carry large volumes of data. So that data, probably you are sitting somewhere in Kenya and somebody is maybe here or wherever. So that happens very, very quickly. So that forms the web of networks, which is called now the internet. So let's come to a client-server architecture. So our server is a computer that runs applications and services ranging from websites to instant messaging. And it's called a server because it provides a service to another computer. Okay, its user also known as the client. So whoever is at the other side is called the client. That's the person that's requesting for that information from this server. And you see here we've explained that it's a server, like it's a servant. So it serves something to whoever has requested. So they're typically stored in data centers, and we have data centers like Google have big data centers, IBM, they have big data centers. Many companies have data centers. Even Kenya Commercial Bank, government have data centers, and they don't have them in-house, even though they might have some in-house, but they have a replica of the same somewhere. So they have, and hence cloud computing. So they hire or they pay for cloud services, and so that whatever they have, like for instance, if it's government informational resources, they are stored somewhere, and that place is called a data center. And if you hear about cloud computing, there is nothing in the cloud, as in physical in the cloud. No, cloud computing just means a cluster of computers distributed on different places or in different locations. And that's hence you hear cloud computing. So there are many different systems in data centers because data centers need to be programmed. And there's a lot of things that are working in there to ensure that they work optimally. And hence, they are normally, and things like even ensuring their state in terms of, performance. So they have to be aerated, like they have to be cool to work optimally or function as they're expected to. So there are data centers located all around the world. Yeah. So web server continues. So many websites use these servers to allow you to access your content quickly from the data center nearest to you. So our web server is a type of a service software. So we are twisting our language a little bit. So a web server is a type of a service software. So it's a software with many functions, which includes storing, our website and administration and data storage, security, and managing emails and things like that. So another primary function is to handle something known as a web request. I've explained that. When you open a browser on your device and type the name of the website, it's the job of the web server to send you back to the website's content. So it's gonna pull that content through that communication protocol, and then it renders it to you as the user. So it's job of the web server to send you back that website's content. So this process is known as the request response cycle, and you will learn more about later on when we start doing Django. You will know this, you will learn this practically. So they're also designed to respond to thousands of requests from clients per second. So you can envision a situation whereby numerous people are making requests on different servers globally. So these things happen like with incredible rapidity, like in milliseconds. You understand what I'm talking about? Yeah. All right. So they perform the storage, administration, data storage, security, managing emails, so forth and so on. And like I say, here you have your client, the device over here, and this is the web server in the middle, and then this is the website, and then the request response cycle goes on. So that's the web request. And so you can see over here, so we send a request, and then the server responds back with the server responds back with something to us that's being rendered to us. So the web server handles that kind of thing through some kind of protocols. So like I've said, they can respond to numerous requests. Yeah, so they respond to numerous requests. And so what is a web browser? So we are going to the next item. So a web browser is just a piece of software that is used to manage the rendering of a website. Okay, so it's used to browse the World Wide Web. It works by sending a request to a web server and then receives a response. Okay, containing that which is supposed to be displayed to you. And there's a difference between a web server and a web browser and a search engine. Normally people confuse this. So a search engine is like Google. Our web browser is like Google Chrome. That's our web browser. Mozilla, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari from Apple. There's another one called what? I'm forgetting. Opera, yeah, Opera also. Those are web browsers. But when we talk about search engines, those are normally used for searching particular topics or keys. So when you type in a certain keywords in a search engine, it does what's called indexing. And so when it does indexing, it pulls out for you related content based on the search keyword. I hope that makes sense. So I've said a web browser is a piece of software that is used for ensuring that web content is rendered to the user. Okay. And the search engine is totally different. It's used to And don't worry, I have resources so for you. So don't worry, just pay keen attention. So a search engine, it's used for indexing certain topics for you. For instance, if you type benefits of avocado, you are typing that into a search engine such as Google. Notice not Google Chrome, Google. Or what other search engine do you know? Yahoo, Duke, there's another one called Duke, something like that. Yeah. So I talked about URL, which is just Uniform Resource Locator, and that is this gibberish thing that's normally typed over here on our website, and this is what is called the URL. We'll talk. The URL has the domain name, and it has the content. So you can see over here. Let me show you the content. I think I have it somewhere. Yeah, it has. It has the protocol. This is the protocol, and the protocol here you can see it's HTTP, and this is not secure because it doesn't have the S. We have the domain name, which is now example.com. And then we have index.html, which is the file path or the content that you want to retrieve. All right. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So search engine, it processes the request by taking the keyword and using it to find the requested data. This data is stored in something called a database. So we talked about that. So web browser, as I've explained, and then through the web server, and then we get something from the database. And this is the database schema, as you can see. So it pulls something from here, the storage, and then renders it. For instance, our church management system will be able to, if the admin wants to query at the name of a particular church member, and they want to know when did they join the church, which department are they in, or and so forth. Basically, the information about that particular church member. So we do what we write, or not writing. For us, we write a query, which is just a query set, which is just a command we issue to the database. Okay. For instance, in this case, we will write a Python command that goes and queries the database for us and pulls out what we want from it in the particular order based on the logic that we've written. Okay. For the people who are non-techies, for instance, people who are using our systems, we will give them a window or a search field. So when they query the database through that search field, then they get they get whatever they get. So they don't need to understand what's happening under the hood. They just need to type search, and brings back to them. It's our work as engineers to ensure that when they type something, if they want the name maybe of John, and they want to know where they're staying, when did they join the church, it's our work to know that when they type that search query, it fetches the exact information for them in the correct order, and it's being rendered into the template, which is now what they see, or what you see. Okay, I've talked about the request response cycle. So we can just pass that request response cycle in action. So when the web browser receives the full response from the web server, it again renders a visible web page with links to the websites. Okay. So basically, it pulls something from the database, and that is rendered to whoever has made that request. Okay. So what about web hosting? So web hosting is a service where you place your website and files on the hosting company's web server. You are essentially renting the space in return for stable and secure storage. So you don't need to be a company to use a web host. Individuals can rent space too. So for instance, I use Hostinger. You can use GoDaddy. You can use, like, there are plethora amount of hosting companies. But again, it depends on what other extras or bonuses that they offer. For instance, some of them will offer management. Some of them will offer staging, what not really staging, they will offer, for instance, backup. Some of them, if you lose your data, you might not be able to retrieve it. Some of them will offer that that package for you. And so you have to search. If you're building maybe your profile and you want to deploy it so that everybody can see it online, then you have to choose a hosting company to host that particular resource. Because when we have it, like now, we have created a web page, for instance, but then we want people to globally to be able to see what we have. So we have to host using a hosting company. All right, so we have various hosting options, and we have shared hosting, virtual private hosting, VPS, dedicated hosting, and cloud hosting. So we shared hosting, you are sharing servers with other people. So you are given just a portion of like they're serving your content or your web page by using shared computers. Let me just say shared resources. Okay, the better word is resources. That means like performance is gonna slacken at times because, for instance, you are sharing with somebody who is streaming movies or they're downloading movies. So that means somebody maybe in South Africa is downloading movies and you're sharing the same hosting with them. Then it's gonna cause some slackening, and that will affect your performance. So shared hosting is not normally advised. It's not preferred, but when you're starting, maybe if you are not dealing with something serious like just a profile, which doesn't have back and forth serving, then that is okay. That's appropriate. But then when you start scaling up, when your business grow, then you need something that can easily scale. So this is you're sharing with website A, website B, blah blah blah. So yeah, and that's a physical server somewhere, and then there's how they do that. Okay, sure. So that's shared hosting. So it's very cheap because you are sharing resources. So that means you share the service processing power, memory, the compute power, and all that are being shared with other people. So this slows down your performance. So like I've said, this is for small businesses with very few visitors, but as it's also good for staging or just like a sandbox, like learning and showcasing, just showing maybe your customers, then that's okay, but not for a serious business. Then we have virtual private server, which is in between a dedicated server and and what and the first one, shared server. So what happens here, we are using a technology what's called virtualization. So what happens is that they take a physical computer or server and then they partition it. So when it's partitioned, then those resources are also partitioned. So it's between a physical server and virtualized server. When we talk about virtual, that means it's not something you can touch. So they virtualize the servers, and it's good, but not also very efficient because it can also experience some slackening. But it's better than a shared one. So sites with considerable demands can use virtual private servers with dedicated CPU, memory, and a bandwidth. It will be running on a hardware server with other VPS instances, and instances just means like an instance is just, I don't want to use a complicated term. It's just like you have several of those VPSs running. Yes. So your website is likely to be impacted by the performance of other VPSs, even though it's better than shared computing, shared hosting. It's slightly more expensive than shared hosting. So dedicated hosting is normally the best because you have a dedicated server just for you, either at an individual level or at an enterprise level. So all hardware, CPU, memory, bandwidth, all resources, basically, they are dedicated to you, as the name is. So this option normally is very expensive than VPS hosting, and it's the best. But it's good for enterprise level businesses, but not for startups. But if you can afford, then there's no problem. And then there's cloud hosting, which is just a cluster of computers. So the advantage with cloud hosting is that we have both physical servers and virtual servers, and these are when we talk about cloud, like I've said, they are in different parts of the world. So that means if there's some kind of latency, or when maybe there's a drop off, like in a certain location, the internet is not good, it gets picked up very, very quickly by another server in another location. And so it's very, very good. Many people prefer using this cloud hosting. It's something that you may have heard of. Cloud hosting has grown in popularity over the last decade and is often mentioned in various news. So with cloud hosting environments spans across multiple physical and virtual servers. If a physical virtual server fails, your website will run on a different server and stay online. So that's an advantage. So is that you can use the advantage, you can use as many resources as you need without hardware limitations. So like it's just like compute resources, like the one that are being offered by Microsoft Azure or GCP, Google Cloud, Google Cloud or AWS, Amazon Web Services. So the thing with cloud hosting is that you're charged based on what you are consuming, and that's also the same case with cloud computing. All those compute engines. So you pay for the bandwidth that you use, even though this can also scale up, can go higher, because if you're doing a lot of work that involves downloading, then it's gonna eat into your pocket. Yeah. All right. So when we come to domain, I've explained this DNS. So like it's a system that translates human readable domain names like this into an IP address. Okay. So that computers use to identify each other in the internet. Essentially, DNS is like the phone book of the internet, allowing users to access websites using easy to remember domain names instead of complicated IP addresses. All right, so that wraps up my introduction to web development. I didn't intend to take, and I think I've done very well. I think we've used 1 hour. Wow, we've done very well. So I'll open the floor for you for any questions. If you have, please raise your hand and ask me. Might not be on what we've discussed, might be those who are not there yesterday. If there's any clarification that you need, I can see we are many here, and some of us were not there yesterday. So you are allowed to ask questions regarding what we've just learned now, and what you expect, and what we discussed yesterday and wasn't clear. What we talked of yesterday and wasn't clear. Yeah, so please talk to me. Is it making sense to everybody? Yes, how much does it cost to host a website? Depends on the hosting company. Normally they charge, sometimes they charge like $1.9 per month. Some of them charge $2, but again, it depends with the services that you've subscribed for. But at bare minimum, it should cost you, a good one should cost you like 8K, 7K, 9K. I have a hosting company, so if you're intending to host, so let me know especially you will want to host your profile, so I can be able to help you there. Okay. Yeah, I've just said the minimum amount. Yes, so ranging from 5K to 10K. Some of them are even $200, like 20 Gs, so forth and so on. Depends with what you want. But for a profile, you don't need to spend much. 5Gs, 4Gs is okay. Any other question? Any other question? Any question you want to ask me? I presume everybody. All right, so it's my turn to ask then if you don't have a question. So the thing is that what softwares, or Tiffany is asking, what softwares will we be using? Is someone talking? Okay, so Tiffany is asking. Yes, Nico, you're saying something?
I just want to say that Tiffany asked a question, so I wanted you to respond to her.
Okay. Yes, Tiffany, we will be using what's called VS Code. That's it's an open source tool that we will be able to. We'll use it to build web pages. At the same time, we can use it to do programming. Even we can also write JavaScript. That will be our next topic, but we probably can just touch on it a little bit. So in this class, we have what are called IDEs, some of the tools that we'll use. So an IDE is an interactive development environment, just like the one I showed you, like this one. So this is an interactive development environment that I use. This is a pro one. You will use an easy one to use, but this is a pro one. And so you'll be able to code most of the things that you're supposed to code. Yeah, using this. So you can do all your Python coding and stuff like that. So this is how they feel. Benjamin will introduce to that in the next lesson. And for others, like I also use for mine, I use a distribution called Anaconda distribution. That's for data analysis. And I also use it for doing so many things, and especially for writing Python scripts. And I use that specifically. For your case, you will use a simpler version of an IDE, which you'll be able to use to develop, to write scripts with or programs with. So yeah, that will be taken care of by Benjamin when he's introducing us and doing the installations. Yes. Any other question? And there's a lot of installations that we will do, so ensure that your computers are running very well. You need at least 4 GB RAM and even probably 8 GB RAM, because some of the programs might be heavy, and so you need something like 4 GB. You can upgrade it or update it to an 8 GB RAM, and of course 256 hard disk. That is okay. Yeah, and I think a Core i3 and above should be just fine. Good processing power. So ensure that you clean up your system, remove junks. We will be able to do that, help you do that if your computer is slow. And even after Benjamin or Bobby sharing the lesson for installation, we still be able to help you with ensuring that your system is cleaned up. So for my case, I'm just showing you as an example. I use something like this. It will do equally the same thing that you you will do with others. But I normally prefer just something like this. And it's called Spider, and it's just a preference. So for instance, this is just a Python script. So, and I normally get the output on this other side. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I hope that makes sense. So for instance, here, if I just print that value of X, then I'll be able to see the output. For instance, if I print X, I'll be able to get that output. I run it here and then it tells me, okay, I've printed 7. Okay, so this other side of my screen is where I'll get the output. You'll have something like this also, where you have the output on this side of the screen also. Yeah, so just showing you in a nutshell. Okay. Any other question you have? Any question you have?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
hello.
wasn't there. I wasn't there for the orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear Frederick.
Okay, I'm saying I wasn't there for the orientation, and I'm asking if at all
Mm-hmm.
you'll be setting an exam for this course, and if yes, can we be getting the soft copy of the notes, that is for maybe the theoretical part of the course?
Yes, Frederick, you'll be provided with everything, all the notes you will get, even these ones, these resources. I'll send them over to you. I just have to confirm the links if they are okay. I have these resources. I'll send this PowerPoint to you, and ideally you are supposed to be downloading it or getting it from the website. But like we discussed yesterday, we said that we are still uploading because we are transitioning from our previous LMS, learning management system, to a more customized and friendly one. And it takes time to do that. So that's why we haven't given you the logins. But by the time we open up in January, because we have maybe 2 lessons and then we close for December. But we will ensure that by the time, or even during Christmas, we'll be sending you some information, and some of the notes you just read them by yourself online once we are done with uploading the contents. Yeah. So Frederick, we will give you everything that you need. We will arm you with all the tools that you require. Yeah. So don't worry about that. And again, there will be exams and there are assignments and there are projects that are supposed to be done by you as an individual and as a group as well. So you have to be up to scratch. Ensure that you finish your assignments on time. If you fail 3 classes, you need to explain why. And if you don't explain satisfactorily, we might put you on a disciplinary action, or you might get a suspension. This is a free course, 100% free. We are not charging you anything, and therefore take it seriously. The only challenge with a course like this is that people don't take it serious, and it like we explained yesterday, that burns us. We stretch thin, we prepare so that we can arm you with the relevant skills. So when you don't take it serious, it also discourages us facilitators. So please try to work as much as possible. Be determined. Do a lot of research. When we after class, every other class, do a lot of research. Read beyond what we have taught you. Due to the arrangement that we have, we only have one physical class every Sunday, and that will be after every Thanksgiving Sunday. And then we will be having a class every Monday and perhaps on Thursday for the newcomers. Every Monday and Thursday for the newcomers, and you are expected to attend those classes. In the event that you think you will not attend, like I saw some people wrote that they were going to get late, that is okay. You just explain to us if you will not come on time, or even if you won't be there totally. You explain to us, and we will place you under a TL, a team leader, so you can write to your team leader, send them a WhatsApp. Excuse me. And then they will ensure that you are not penalized for not attending when you've already explained. Okay, so take it seriously. You will have a project. Start thinking about the project that you have. We said yesterday that even the most weirdest ideas, as long as you have an idea, come up with it, we'll give it life. That's why we are here. That's why we are teaching you this course. So even the most weirdest idea or the most funny idea, like, you want, whatever it is, come up with anything. If you want to build your own portfolio, like you are starting now, so you know what you want to be by the end of the course. So that can be a portfolio. So you can start by putting that in your mind, and then as you learn, it starts gaining form, structure. So that's the project that you'll present to us as an individual by the end of the course. The course ends in August. Then we have 2 months to do a project, and then we graduate in November. All right. Any other question? Fidel Leroy says, what version of what? Okay, so we'll be using the latest version, which should be above 3.9. Why I'm saying that we should use at least 3.10 and above. You know why I'm saying that? Because if we use a lower version, then some of the things we'll do will not be compatible with Python versions. Like, for instance, we are no longer using 2.7, 2.8. We are using 3 and above. Okay. So, for instance, like my system in my computer, there are certain things that I'm using 3.9. There are certain things that I'm using 3.12, and others I'm using 3.10. Okay. Any other question? Hope I've answered you, Fidel and Tiffany. Any other question?
One last time.
Yes.
Just allow me ask this. I was like asking for literally for a friend and for myself as well, that is saying that practically he hasn't sat in a class or any computer related lesson. Let me say that computer related lesson. That now I'm asking that, can this affect him in regards to this course in any way? Or it's only that he'll need his commitment to the course?
Yes, it does, of course. If you're coming from, so if I hear you correctly, Frederick, this is a person who does not have any, okay, let me not say does not have any computer knowledge, has not sat in a computer class.
Yeah, sure.
Do they have any computer knowledge? Like, can they handle computers? Can they use computers?
I think handling is a broad term, but from what I know, he can power on, he can maybe to some extent watch movies by himself, download it because of, okay, that is maybe a common knowledge. I can say he has a common knowledge about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see Bradley's laughing, power on a computer. Okay. You know what? We in this previously we had similar situations whereby some of the students didn't even know how to use a computer, and we expect we might have a similar situation, and we don't want to discourage people even if you don't want if you don't know how to use a computer. In fact, you might be a very good candidate for the tech industry. The only thing that normally is required of you is, are you determined? Are you focused? Are you somebody who you really thirsting for this knowledge? You know, it's not just for show off, like man, I'm in IT and stuff like that. No, it's are you really thirsting for this knowledge? You know, so if that is the person that we're talking about, then you're welcome, because we will be able to pick you up from where you are at, teach you how to use a computer, teach you how you can be able to do meaningful things with a computer. So encouraging to come. But again, we only have a window up to January. After January, maybe the first week, we will not be able to take any person because we'll have started advancing into, we'll have made inroads into other courses. Yeah, other modules. So for now, there's still a window of people coming in and registering with us. But after January, there by 10th or 15th, thereabout, we will not be able to take in any other person because that will drag us behind. So for instance, like now, we've discussed about this intro to web development. Okay, this is not complex. But if somebody who has not attended this class, introductory class, may be lacking in something, okay? Even though they might learn by themselves, but they probably might not, get it the way we've explained it. And still, we are willing to explain it further. If you still didn't get what we said, you can just let us know, and we will be able to help you. So I hope I've answered you, Frederick.
Yeah, sure. You have.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right. Any other person? Okay. So I presume. So let me ask you maybe a few questions over here. So without looking at the notes, so what is a full stack web developer? What do they do? Who is a full stack web developer? Raise your hands, please, and unmute. Yes, Brian.
Full stack developer is someone who handles both the front end and the back end of web development.
Web application, not web
Yeah.
development.
Web application, sorry.
Yes. All right. So can somebody answer me, what's a website and what's the difference between a website and an application? No, not Brian now. Somebody else. Okay. Who was that? Another person. Because we are many, so let's. Can someone raise their hands? Not Tony, not old guys. I want new guys only. Only new guys. Yes, Jadida. Unmute.
Okay, the websites are for providing information, then the applications, they will enable like a user to perform some tasks.
Okay. Like what?
Like let's say a WhatsApp app, you can chat on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So what's a database? Another person? What is a database? Jeremiah?
What I've understood is basically used for the storage of information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're storing some resources. Okay. So what are the protocols that I talked about? I talked about two protocols, two web protocols. Brian?
Hypertext transfer protocol and hypertext transfer protocol secure, I think.
Good, very good. Catherine, did you have something to say? Okay, Catherine, the next question goes to you. Now let me ask another one. Let me think of another one. So what's the DNS, Catherine? Catherine, you raised your hand. Please answer me.
Okay. DNS is a domain name.
Okay. For example?
For example, if you go to our website, like for example, meetgoogle.com, yes, it HTTP is kitu kayo.
Okay. Right. Yeah, like you see, like, for instance, like rccg.com, that's a domain name. All right, so another question, what's web hosting? What is web hosting? Who is that? Please mute.
So web hosting is a service that enables sharing of servers with other people or clients.
Okay, partially correct. Yeah, thank you for trying. Yes, you are correct, but there's something that I'm looking for. Can somebody also try? Can somebody also try? Yes. Go ahead.
Web hosting is the service that allows an individual or an organization to make their website accessible on the internet.
Yeah, so it's a service that is being given by another company to host your resources. So for instance, you have a website or a web application. So this web application needs to be seen by other people. So there's a company that does that for you and hosts those resources for you so that it can be served to other individuals. Okay, good stuff. So I talked about something cycle. Can somebody tell me what that is and finish that something cycle? Yes, Catherine?
A response cycle.
Yes, it's a response cycle. You've left something out, another term. It's a response. Yes, it's a response cycle, but it needs to be complete. So you've left another term. Thanks for trying, Catherine. Somebody else can help her. Yes, Brian?
Web response cycle.
Not web. Okay. It's a request response cycle. So the term I was looking for is request response cycle. And Brian, what does that mean?
This is the transfer of information from a client server and database and back and forth.
Okay, good stuff. 100%. All right, I touched on something called MVC. It's an acronym. Can somebody remember what that means? MVC. Yes, Jessica.
Model view controller.
Are you Googling?
No.
Okay.
I'm actually using my phone for the meeting.
Okay. All right, good stuff, Jessica. That yeah, it's a model view controller. It's I didn't know that you guys can remember that. So what does that mean? I know it's a bit complex, but in your own language, just Jessica, in your own language. Okay, I think it's Fidel. Yes, Fidel.
Is a device pattern used to partition data?
Thanks for trying. It's not a device pattern. It's all right. So can somebody try? Can someone try, please? What is MVC? What is MVC? Model View Controller. All right. I'll count up to 10. If no new guy knows it, one of the old guys will help. So I'm giving you chance, new guys, new team. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. Fidel.
It's a design pattern used to decouple data.
Did you Google?
No, it was among the things I learned in introduction to HTML.
Okay, all right. Yes, it's a design pattern. It's an okay. Let me not reward it. I'd like to hear from another person, from you, new team, from the new team. Yes, Fidel has explained it, but there's also another way you can explain it. Can somebody come up? Yes, there's Tiffany and there's Catherine. So who first? Okay, Catherine.
Okay, thank you. I think MVC is a design used for designing user interface for web development.
Mm-hmm. You are correct, partially correct. Yeah. So Tiffany also raised her hand. Please go ahead, Tiffany.
Okay, I think it's used to organize the code. The model is I can say it's like the database where it organizes the data. The view is what the user sees, like the interface, and the controller is what organizes the data in the model, like in the database.
I like the way you tried, but are you guessing or you know what you're saying, Tiffany? Okay, you are trying. That's good. That's really, really good. From the MVC, you've got only one thing correctly. You've got about the model, which is the database, but the V and the C, you didn't get them correctly. So who wants to try? Thanks for trying, though. So MVC, who wants to tell me about what's the V? What's the model view controller? Yes, Nicholas.
Let me try. The MVC is just an architectural design or a pattern that if that stages the design into three parts, where we have the model. The model will the model will manage the data and the logics.
Yeah.
The view will handle the layout, or the layout as in how the client wants to see it, and then the controller is now will facilitate the route forward and back.
Okay. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, 100%. So when we talk about MVC, it's a design, a software design, architecture or principle or pattern And so the model stands for the database. And of course, the database holds the data or the schema. And the schema is the table which holds the data. And even in the database, there's logic, which we call models. The old guys know about this. So these models are just a bunch of codes that ensures that the data is can be served in a particular way. Okay. When we talk about the view is not per se like what it means, the view. The view means the logic. That's the business logic. And when I talk about the logic, that means the functions or the code that does the heavy lifting. Okay. That basically means the code that ensures that data is forked from the database, communicated into the T, which is now the template, model view template. Yeah, which is now the template, okay? And the template is the HTML or the HTML that renders what you see, which you can also call the view, but in another context, not in the context of the logic, in the context of what you see. All right, hope that makes sense. Okay, let me ask two more questions. We are supposed to end at 9. Let me ask 2 or 3 more questions. Let me think of something. So, what does it entail someone to be a front end? Okay, what does it entail somebody to be a full stack developer? What do you need to know? What skills do you need to grow so that you become a full stack developer? Tiffany?
One needs to have knowledge in both front end and back end. For the front end, one needs to know how to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There are also other extensions like Node.js. And back end, they should know how to use and manipulate the database, and also security, because you can't have a system without security.
100% true. Good. Sorry, I have a flu. Yeah, so okay, so okay. Can someone tell me what is HTML? Brian?
Provides the what's it called? Provides the structure for the development of mobile and web systems.
Yeah, it's the bare knuckles of a website. It gives you the content, the structure. Okay. And what can someone tell me what is CSS? Yes, Stephanie.
It's a cascading style sheet that is used to style the website.
Good. Another person was to Catherine. I saw another name that I've not seen before. As Catherine, can you answer what's JavaScript and what does it do? What is JavaScript and what does it do? Yes, Catherine?
I think JavaScript is a language used for to link your database and website. For example, if you have a form, so that the information given in that form should be stored in a database. So it helps to link.
Okay, you've tried. That's good. Somebody wants to try again? You're partially correct, Catherine. Yes, Stephanie.
JavaScript is used to give functionality to our website. For example, if it's filling forms or giving a user a chance to have a response given when an action is performed in our website.
Yeah, basically for interactivity purposes. Okay, good stuff. Okay, we have a few minutes, so let me ask another one. Let me remember. Okay, so you. Let me check quickly. Let me just go through. What does a network switch do? What does a network switch do? Somebody wants to try? Yes, try.
A network switch is used to connect devices to a network.
Yeah, so it just allows, it controls the data that passes, the packet of data that passes from one device to another one. How many hosting services do we have? Yes, just
4.
please name them.
I remember shared hosting and the virtual private, the VPS. There was the secure one. I remember cloud hosting. I've forgotten the other good one. The best one, I've forgotten what it was called.
All right, yeah, you got 3, so one more. Who can remind her that other one? Are you still raising your hand, or Susan? I've seen Susan. Or you remember just, yeah, dedicated. Yes, Susan, you got it correct. Yes. So there are 4. There's dedicated, there's shared, there's VPS, and there's which one? Cloud, dedicated, VPS, and shared. There are 4. All right. So who can tell me the features of dedicated? Yes, Susan.
Only dedicated to you. It's expensive and good for enterprises.
Okay. Yeah, you got it right. And which one is the cheapest amongst the 4 hosting services? Yes, again, Susan. Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Shared host.
Yeah, shared hosting is the cheapest one. All right. So I want to say a big thank you for today's class. Thank you for the overwhelming attendance, and let's keep the momentum. Benjamin, maybe I give you 5 minutes to talk about the next lesson.
Hi guys, thank you for joining today's class. I hope you learned something. If there's a concept that you've not learned, as we said yesterday, you can always feel free to reach any one of us. You can reach our HOD. You can inbox me, you can inbox Bobby, you can also inbox Tony. So don't be stuck. If there's anything that you do not understand, do not be stuck. Also, if you see things that you've never seen before, don't be intimidated. Just keep coming. The more classes you attend, the more clearer things become. Even if you've never done IT before, just keep on coming. within a few weeks you'll have gotten a few concepts. So the next class will be on Thursday, and I'll be taking you through Visual Studio, which is one of the IDEs that we usually have and we usually use for coding. I think in today's class they had touched on IDEs, so I'll take you through Visual Studio, how to install it, and basically how it works. So make sure that you have a computer that has internet access. For the people that do not have computers, if you can try and borrow, even if it's a friend's computer, just for Thursday's class, so that as we are doing it, when you do it practically, when you do it on your side, then it's easier for you to understand and it's easier for you to get the concepts. But if you do not have access, if you to a computer, it's okay. You just join the class, follow along. Once you get a computer, you can try it practically. Then the second thing that we'll be doing is version control. So I'll be introducing a topic about JIT. So it's a collaborative tool. So we'll just do an introduction to version control. You'll understand what version control is, why we need version control. So that's what basically we'll cover on Thursday's class. Then from there, we'll have an assignment that we'll give you that you'll be able to do while on a Christmas break. Yes. So maybe if someone has a question or a contribution, they can ask. Anyone with a question? Okay, so if there's no question, thank you for joining. See you on Thursday.
Okay. Bye-bye for now.
Ni ajeni